Jake Morrison had been sitting in the same chair for 3 hours straight. His back hurt and his patience was running thin. The alien representatives kept talking in circles, saying the same things over and over again. They spoke about peace, but their words felt more like threats. The meeting room was huge, with walls made of some kind of crystal that glowed softly. 50 different alien species sat around a massive table that could have fit a small spaceship. Jake represented Earth, and he was getting tired of being treated like a child who had wandered into an adult conversation. Captain Lisa Hayes stood near the back wall, watching everything. She wore her military uniform and kept her face blank, but Jake could see the anger in her eyes. She had been a soldier for 20 years and knew when someone was trying to push them around. The aliens had been doing exactly that for months. Leader of the Zephyrians stood up again. His name was something with too many sounds for human tongues to pronounce icily, so everyone just called him Chancellor. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished metal and eyes that glowed blue. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the room like he was talking from the bottom of a well. "The humans must understand their place in the galaxy," the Chancellor said, spreading his long arms wide. "You are young. You are violent. You need guidance from those who have walked among the stars for thousands of years." Jake had heard this speech before, many times. The aliens always talked about how young humanity was, how dangerous they were, how they needed to be controlled for their own good. It was getting old fast. An insect-like creature from the collective clicked its mandibles, together, making a sound like breaking glass. When it spoke, the words came out in a harsh whisper that made Jake's skin crawl. "The human species has expanded too quickly," it said. 43 colonies in less than a century. This is reckless. This is dangerous. They must be stopped before they spread their chaos further. Jake looked down at his notes. The same demands, written in careful, diplomatic language. Earth had to give up all weapons stronger than basic police equipment. Earth had to abandon 30 of their 43 colonies. Earth had to accept alien supervisors on every remaining world. Earth had to let alien ships patrol human space to keep the peace. In other words, Earth had to become a prisoner in its own home. Captain Hayes shifted slightly, and Jake knew she was thinking the same thing. These weren't peace negotiations. This was a surrender ceremony, and the aliens expected humanity to smile and thank them for the privilege. The president of the Galactic Council stood up next. She was one of the ethereals, beings made of what looked like living light. Her form shifted and changed as she spoke, patterns of color flowing across her translucent body. "We offer protection," she said, her voice like music played through water. "The galaxy is dangerous. There are pirates, raiders, hostile species that would destroy human worlds without thought. Accept our terms, and we will keep you safe." Almost laughed. He had seen the reports from human scouts. The pirates and raiders the aliens talked about were mostly small-time criminals with outdated equipment. Earth's own patrol ships had been handling them just fine for years. The real threat wasn't from pirates. It was from the aliens sitting around this table, pretending to be helpful while planning to chain humanity to their will. "We have been patient," said another alien, this one looking like a walking tree with too many arms. "We have explained this situation clearly. The humans must accept reality. They are not ready for true independence." Jake stood up slowly. The room went quiet. In 3,000 years of Galactic Council history, no one had ever interrupted the formal proceedings. But Jake was done being polite. "Ambassador Morrison," the Chancellor said, his glowing eyes narrowing. "You will wait for permission to speak." "No," Jake said simply. The word hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Several aliens made sounds of shock. The insect creatures' clicking became faster, more agitated. The ethereal president's light patterns flickered in what might have been surprise or anger. Jake picked up his datapad and the folder of documents he had brought. "Earth formally withdraws from these negotiations," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the crystal chamber. "We will not accept terms that amount to voluntary slavery." The silence that followed was complete. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. In his ears, Captain Hayes straightened up, ready for whatever came next. Several alien guards moved closer to the table, but they seemed uncertain about what to do. "You cannot simply leave," the Chancellor said, his metallic face showing something. That might have been panic. "These negotiations are mandatory under galactic law." "Your laws," Jake replied, tucking his papers under his arm. "Not ours. We never agreed to be bound by rules we had no part in making." The tree-like alien swayed back and forth its many arms, waving in agitation. "This is unprecedented. No species has ever refused council authority." "Then I guess we're the first," Jake said. He turned toward the door, Captain Hayes falling into step beside him. "If you want to deal with Earth, you'll do it as equals. We're done begging for scraps from your table." "Hey," the ethereal president called out, her form blazing brighter. "You do not understand the consequences. Without council protection, humanity will be destroyed. There are forces in the galaxy that will crush your species without mercy." Jake paused at the doorway and looked back. "Maybe, but we'll face whatever comes as free beings, not as your pets." The alien representatives began talking all at once, their voices mixing into a chaos of protests, threats, and demands. Jake ignored them all and walked out. Captain Hayes at his side. The corridor outside was empty, except for a few alien guards who seemed more confused than threatening. Jake's footsteps echoed on the metal floor as he headed for the docking bay where Earth's ship waited. "That went well," Captain Hayes said dryly once they were out of earshot. "Better than expected," Jake replied. "Did you see their faces when—" I stood up. "They've been pushing around younger species for so long, they forgot what it looks like when someone pushes back. They're going to be angry," Hayes warned, "and scared. Scared aliens do stupid things. Let them. We've been preparing for this day longer than they know." They reached the docking bay where the Earth ship Defiance waited. It looked like a standard diplomatic vessel, sleek and unarmed. The aliens had insisted on that, of course. No weapons allowed at peace talks. Jake smiled grimly as he climbed aboard. If only they knew what humanity had been building while they talked down to them like children. Captain Hayes sealed the airlock and headed for the bridge, setting course for Earth. "Sir, make it fast," Jake said, settling into his seat. "We need to get home before they figure out what just happened." As the Defiance pulled away from the council station, Jake looked back at the massive structure floating in space. For months he had traveled there, hoping to find a peaceful solution. Instead, he had found aliens who wanted to clip humanity's wings before they learned to fly. Well, it was too late for that. Humanity had been flying for decades. The aliens just hadn't been paying attention. The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would shake the galaxy to its core. Earth had walked away from the negotiating table, and nothing would ever be the same. The news hit the galaxy like a shockwave. Within 6 hours of Jake Morrison walking out of the peace talks, every major world knew what had happened. Communication networks that normally carried routine trade reports and weather updates suddenly buzzed with emergency transmissions. On Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council, President Zortha stood in her private chambers staring at the message display. Her ethereal form flickered between deep purple and angry red, colors that hadn't appeared in her light patterns for over a century. She had lived through 3,000 years of galactic politics, and nothing like this had ever happened before. "Actually left," she whispered to herself. "The humans actually walked away." Her aide, a nervous young Zephyrian named Veltar, shifted uncomfortably near the door. "Madam President, the council members are demanding an emergency session. They want to know what we should do." Zorthes turned away from the display. "We should have listened when they asked for fair treatment instead of treating them like dangerous children." "But they are dangerous," Veltar protested. "The reports from our intelligence teams show they have expanded faster than any species in recorded history. 43 colonies in less than 100 years. That's unprecedented. And now they're free to expand however they want?" Zorthes said grimly. "Because we were too proud to treat them as equals across the galaxy." Admiral Kate Sullivan received the coded transmission while her fleet patrolled the outer edges of human space. She had been expecting this message for months, maybe years. Her ships had been playing a careful game with alien scout vessels, letting them think they were observing standard human patrol routes, while actually testing alien sensor capabilities. Admiral, her communications officer, called out, "Priority. Message from Earth Command." Kate read the message twice, then smiled. It was a simple code phrase that every human military officer had memorized. "The children have left the playground. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan," she broadcast to her fleet. "Execute Protocol 7. Repeat. Execute Protocol 7. Round." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had drilled this scenario hundreds of times, but never thought they would actually use it. Protocol 7 meant the end of pretending, no more hiding their true capabilities. No more letting alien scouts track their movements unopposed. "Stealth systems online," her tactical officer reported. "All ships are now invisible to standard alien sensors." Kate watched her fleet disappear from the main display. To any alien. Observer, 30 human warships had just vanished into empty space. The technology had been reverse-engineered from captured alien equipment over the past 20 years, improved and perfected in secret laboratories, while the aliens thought humans were still using primitive rocket engines. "New orders, Admiral?" her executive officer asked. "We watch and we wait," Kate said, "and we let them make the first mistake." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Ben Carter stood before a joint session of Congress and the United Nations. The massive DC Assembly Hall was packed with reporters, politicians, and military leaders. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. "My fellow citizens," Carter began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber and to every human world through the communication networks. "Today, humanity chose freedom over safety. We chose dignity over comfortable slavery." The room erupted in applause. Carter waited for quiet before continuing. "For months, our representatives tried to find a peaceful solution with the Galactic Council. We offered compromise after compromise. We bent over backwards to show we could be reasonable neighbors. In return, they demanded we give up our colonies, surrender our weapons, and accept alien supervisors on every human world." Murmurs of anger rippled through the crowd. Everyone had heard rumors about the peace talks, but few knew the full extent of what the aliens had demanded. "They told us we were too young to govern ourselves. It's too violent to be trusted with advanced technology. It's too dangerous to be allowed true independence." They were wrong on all counts, and now they will learn just how wrong they were. Carter paused, letting his words sink in. "We are not seeking war, never wanted conflict. But we will not accept chains, no matter how comfortable they might be. Humanity will chart its own course among the stars." The applause this time was thunderous. Carter raised his hand for silence. "To the alien species who are undoubtedly listening, to this broadcast I say this. We are willing to coexist peacefully with all who respect our sovereignty. We welcome trade, cultural exchange, and genuine friendship. But we will not kneel to anyone." As Carter's speech ended, intelligence reports began flooding into the Galactic Council's Central Command. The information was disturbing, to say the least. Human colonies that were supposed to be defenseless farming worlds were suddenly revealing hidden orbital defense platforms. Trade vessels that had been carrying grain and manufactured goods for years were transforming into armed escort ships. Most shocking of all, long-range sensors were detecting massive energy signatures from the Sol system itself. Chancellor Vexthera of the Zephyrians stood in the Council's Intelligence Center, reading report after report with growing alarm. Metallic face, normally calm and composed, showed clear signs of stress. "This is impossible," he muttered. "Our scouts have been monitoring human space for decades. Where did these weapons come from?" Intelligence Chief Cormex, a multi-eyed creature from the observation corps, clicked his beak nervously. "Sir, it appears the humans have been more clever than we assumed. Many of these installations were disguised as civilian infrastructure. We never thought to look closely because they seemed so primitive." "Primitive," Vexthera repeated bitterly. "We kept calling them primitive while they were building a secret military that we never even noticed." On the insectoid homeworld of Rex Prime, the collective's hive mind was buzzing with activity. Millions of individual minds linked together to process the implications of humanity's actions. The consensus was clear. This was a disaster of unprecedented proportions. The collective had always prided itself on perfect information gathering. Their scout ships were the best in the galaxy. Their intelligence networks reached into every major civilization. Yet somehow they had completely missed humanity's true capabilities. Queen Mind ZZTKKX sent out a priority pulse to all collective worlds. The message was simple but terrifying. The humans have been lying to us for decades. We do not know what they are truly capable of. Back on Earth, Dr. Alan Cooper sat in his underground laboratory complex, reading reports from human colonies across the galaxy. As director of the Terran Defense Initiative, he had spent the last 30 years preparing for this exact moment. "Sir," his assistant called out, "we're receiving confirmation signals from all Phase 1 installations. Project Homestead is fully operational." Cooper nodded grimly. Project Homestead was humanity's insurance policy, developed in secret, while the aliens thought humans were peaceful farmers and traders. Every human colony had hidden defenses. Every trade route was protected by disguised warships. Every diplomatic mission had included intelligence-gathering operations. "Activate Phase 2, Cooper ordered. "It's time to let them see what we've really been building." Across human space, installations that had been hidden for decades began powering up. Asteroid mining operations revealed themselves as fortress worlds. Scientific research stations activated weapon systems that shouldn't have existed according to alien technology assessments. Even the smallest human settlements suddenly bristled with defensive capabilities. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They had assumed that because humans were new to the galactic community, they were also naive and defenseless. They had forgotten that humanity had reached the stars not through alien charity, but through their own ingenuity and determination. Now, as emergency sessions convened on every major alien world, the truth was becoming clear. The species they had tried to treat as children had been playing a much longer game than anyone realized. Humanity hadn't just been expanding through the galaxy, they had been preparing for war. The Galactic Council faced a choice: accept humanity as equals, or face the consequences of their arrogance. Either way, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted forever. The children had left the playground. They were no longer interested in playing by someone else's rules. Dr. Alan Cooper walked through the corridors of the deepest military facility on Earth. The underground complex stretched for miles beneath the Colorado mountains. Hidden from alien sensors by layers of rock and carefully designed shielding, for 30 years this place had been humanity's greatest secret. "Today we stop hiding," Cooper said to the assembled scientists and engineers. "Project Homestead is now fully authorized for public disclosure." The room buzzed with excitement. These men and women had spent decades working on technologies that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. They had reverse-engineered alien equipment, improved upon it, and created weapons and defenses that the Galactic Council thought were impossible for such a young species. Cooper activated the main display, showing a star map of human space. Red dots marked every human colony, every outpost, every seemingly innocent research station. But now, green lines connected them all, revealing the true scope of humanity's preparations. "Ladies and gentlemen," Cooper announced, "meet the real human. Empire." Commander Steve Parker stood on the bridge of the Ed's Ghost, humanity's first Wraith-class stealth destroyer. The ship hung in space near the border between human and alien territory, completely invisible to the alien patrol vessels passing nearby. Parker watched the alien ships through his advanced sensors, counting their weapons and analyzing their movements. "Sir," his tactical officer whispered, "the alien patrol is changing course. They're heading toward the Kepler colony." Parker studied the display. The alien ships were Regalian heavy cruisers, powerful vessels that could destroy most known human defenses. At least, that's what the aliens thought. "Signal the Kepler defense grid," Parker ordered. "Tell them they have incoming visitors." The message was sent through quantum communication channels that the aliens didn't even know existed. Within seconds, the Kepler colony received the warning and began preparing its hidden surprises. Parker had been commanding stealth ships for 5 years. But the aliens had never detected him. He still thought human ships were slow, noisy, and easy to track. The Wraith-class destroyers proved them wrong. Built using stolen alien technology and improved human engineering, these ships could move through space like ghosts. All crew, prepare for observation protocol, Parker announced. Going to watch the aliens get their first real lesson in human military technology. On the industrial world of New Texas, factory supervisor Mary Johnson oversaw the final preparations for humanity's most ambitious project. The planet looked like a normal mining and manufacturing world, with huge factories and processing plants covering most of the surface. But beneath the industrial facade lay something far more impressive. Sentinel Defense Platform Alpha is ready for activation, her chief engineer reported. All weapon systems are online and ready. Mary nodded, looking at the massive structure that had been disguised as a mineral processing plant for the past 15 years. The Sentinel platforms were fortress worlds, heavily armed and shielded installations capable of defending entire star systems. The aliens had watched them being built, thinking they were simple industrial facilities. How many platforms are ready across human space? Mary asked. 47 major installations, sir, plus another 120 smaller defensive positions. Every human colony now has military-grade protection. Mary smiled grimly. The aliens had demanded that humanity abandon 30 of their 43 colonies, claiming they were too dangerous to remain unguarded. They had no idea that every single human settlement was now better defended than most alien military bases. Begin the activation sequence, Mary ordered. Let's show our alien friends what human engineering can really do. Across the galaxy, alien intelligence networks were reporting increasingly disturbing information. The Zephyrian Military Command had called an emergency meeting, with officers from 12 different species gathering to discuss the human situation. General Kralvex, a massive reptilian warrior from the Saurian Empire, slammed his clawed fist. On the conference table, this is impossible. Our scouts have been monitoring human space for decades. Where did these weapons come from? Admiral Tessara of the Aquatic Federation rippled her tentacles in frustration. The humans have been lying to us. Every trade mission, every diplomatic contact, every cultural exchange was cover for intelligence gathering. They played us, admitted Commander Vrextol of the Insectoid Collective. While we were treating them like primitive newcomers, they were studying our technology and building their own improved versions. Assembled alien officers reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Human colonies that were supposed to be defenseless were revealing orbital weapons platforms. Trade ships were transforming into armed escorts. Even human civilian vessels were showing energy signatures that suggested hidden military modifications. Long have they been preparing for this? General Kralvex demanded. Based on the scale of their preparations, at least 30 years, Admiral Tessara replied. Maybe longer. They started planning for war the moment they made first contact with us. Back on Earth, President Carter held a private meeting with his top military advisors. The room was small and secure, protected from alien surveillance by the most advanced shielding technology humanity could create. How are our preparations proceeding? Carter asked. General Patricia Wells, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, consulted her datapad. All Phase 1 objectives are complete, sir. Every human colony is now protected by hidden defense systems. Our stealth fleets are in position throughout human space. The aliens still don't know the true extent of our capabilities. What about Phase 2? Carter inquired. Ready to proceed on your order, sir? Phase 2 will reveal our offensive capabilities. Once we activate those systems, there will be no hiding our true military strength. Carter nodded thoughtfully. Not yet. Let them make the first move. When they attack, we want the galaxy to see who the real aggressors are. On the alien homeworld of Nexus Prime, President Zorthes convened an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 50 different species gathered in the Great Crystal Chamber, their faces showing mixtures of fear, anger, and confusion. The human situation has become critical, Zorthes announced. They have rejected our authority, and are apparently far more dangerous than we realized. Chancellor Vexera of the Zephyrians stood to address the assembly. My fellow council members, we face an unprecedented crisis. For the first time in 3,000 years, a species has successfully hidden their true military capabilities from our intelligence networks. Angry murmurs filled the chamber. The Galactic Council prided itself on maintaining order through superior knowledge and overwhelming force. The idea that a young species could outsmart their surveillance systems was both embarrassing and terrifying.
What?
Do we know about their actual capabilities? Asked Queen Mind. ZZTKKX of the collective. Very little, Vexthera admitted. They have defense platforms we never detected. Ships that are invisible to our sensors. Weapons that shouldn't exist according to our understanding of their technology level. Then we must assume the worst, declared Emperor Mordok of the Hegemony. They may be capable of threatening our core worlds. The chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives called for immediate military action to crush the human rebellion. Before it could spread, others argued for negotiation, worried that a war with humanity might be more costly than anyone expected. President Zorthis watched the chaos with growing concern. The Galactic Council had maintained peace for millennia, through a combination of diplomacy and the implied threat of overwhelming force. But what happened when a species was strong enough to reject that authority? Dr. Cooper received reports from human agents embedded throughout alien space. The information was encouraging. The aliens were confused, frightened, and arguing among themselves. Most importantly, they still didn't understand the full scope of human preparations. Sir, his aide reported, we're receiving signals from all our deep cover operatives. Aliens are considering military action against our outer colonies. Cooper smiled coldly. Perfect. Let them come. It's time they learned what happens when you underestimate humanity. He activated his personal communication device and sent a single coded message to President Carter. The trap is set. We're ready for whatever they throw at us. Across human space, hidden weapons powered up, stealth ships took position. Soldiers prepared for the fight they had been training for their entire lives. The aliens thought they were dealing with a young species that had gotten too big for its britches. They were about to discover they were facing the most dangerous enemy they had ever encountered. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment. Now it was time to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. Fleet Admiral Karksvan of the Rigelian Hegemony stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator staring at the tactical display showing 200 warships under his command. The massive fleet represented the largest military force that Hegemony had assembled in over a century. It should be more than enough to crush any resistance from the rebellious humans. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, we are approaching the Haven's Rest system. Long-range sensors show minimal human presence. A few civilian vessels, some orbital facilities, nothing that appears militarized. Karksvan nodded with satisfaction. Haven's Rest was a human agricultural colony with a population of about 50,000 settlers. It produced food for several other human worlds and was supposed to be completely defenseless. The perfect target to make an example of humanity's weakness. Begin the attack run, Karksvan ordered. Target all orbital installations first, then prepare for planetary bombardment. I want this colony to serve as a lesson to all human worlds about the cost of defying the Council. The Rigelian fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons charging as they approached the planet. Karksvan expected to see panic from the human vessels, desperate attempts to flee, or surrender messages begging for mercy. Instead, he got silence. On the surface of Haven's Rest, Colonel Ryan Davis stood in what appeared to be a simple farming community's emergency shelter. The building looked like basic civilian construction with rough concrete walls and simple metal doors. But appearances could be deceiving. Sir, his communications officer reported, the Rigelian fleet has entered the system. 200 ships, just like our intelligence predicted. Davis looked at the tactical display built into what the aliens thought was a grain storage facility. The underground command center extended deep beneath the farming settlement, with armor, plating that could withstand direct hits from battleship weapons. All units, this is Colonel Davis, he broadcast to his forces. Execute Plan Harvest Moon. Let's show these aliens what human farmers can really grow. Across the Haven's Rest system, installations that had looked like innocent farming equipment began to transform. Irrigation systems revealed themselves as camouflaged missile launchers. Grain silos opened to show massive artillery pieces. Even The asteroid belt surrounding the planet suddenly came alive with hidden weapon platforms that had been disguised as mining equipment. Lieutenant Smee Foster sat in the cockpit of her Phoenix-class fighter, hidden inside what appeared to be a simple storage asteroid. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years, ever since she had been assigned to the Haven's Rest Defense Force. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Foster," she transmitted to her fellow pilots. "The party is about to start. Remember, we want some of them to escape so they can tell their friends what happened here." Admiral Kirksvon watched in growing alarm as his sensors began detecting energy signatures all around his fleet. What had looked like empty space was suddenly filled with weapons platforms. What had seemed like civilian infrastructure was revealing military-grade defensive systems. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, his voice rising with panic. "We're being targeted by over 300 separate weapon systems. The humans have turned this entire system into a fortress." "Impossible," Kirksvon snarled. "Our intelligence reports showed this was an undefended agricultural world." "The intelligence reports were wrong, sir. We're detecting shield generators, particle beam arrays, missile batteries, and weapon types our computers don't even recognize." Before Kirksvon could respond, the humans opened fire. The battle was unlike anything the Rigelian admiral had ever experienced. Human weapons struck. His ships with pinpoint accuracy, targeting specific systems rather than trying to destroy entire vessels. His heavy cruisers found their engines disabled by precisely aimed shots. His destroyers lost their weapons, while their life support remained intact. "They're not trying to kill us," his tactical officer realized. "They're trying to cripple us." "Colonel." Davis watched the battle from his command center, coordinating the defense with the calm precision of someone who had planned this engagement for years. Every human weapon had been positioned for maximum effect. Every shot was calculated to demonstrate human capabilities without causing unnecessary casualties. "Focus fire on their flagship," Davis ordered. "I want Admiral Kirksvon to have a very clear view of what we can do." The Dominator shuddered as human weapons found their targets. Shield generators overloaded, weapon systems went offline, and the massive ship's engines sputtered and died. But the life support remained functional, and the bridge crew was unharmed. Lieutenant Foster led her squadron in attack runs against the smaller Rigelian vessels. The Phoenix fighters moved through space like dancers, too fast and maneuverable for the alien weapons to track effectively. They struck with surgical precision, disabling ships without destroying them. "Phoenix leader to all units," Foster transmitted. "Remember, we want prisoners, not corpses. These aliens are going to carry a message back to their friends." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 170 Rigelian ships floated dead in space. Crews alive, but their vessels completely disabled. The remaining 30 ships had been allowed to retreat. Carrying news of the human victory back to alien space, Admiral Kirksvon sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. His fleet had been one of the most powerful in the galaxy, and the humans had defeated it without breaking a sweat. More importantly, they had done it without killing anyone. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the human colony." Colonel Davis appeared on the main screen, looking calm and professional. "Admiral Kirksvon, I am Colonel Ryan Davis, commanding officer of Haven's Rest Defense Force. Your ships have been disabled, but your crews are unharmed. We will allow you to repair your engines and return to Rigelian space." "You defeated us," Kirksvon said, still struggling to understand what had happened. "Why aren't you destroying us?" "Because we're not monsters," Davis replied. "We defended our world, nothing more. Your people attacked us, and we responded appropriately. But we don't kill prisoners, and we don't destroy helpless ships. This is impossible. How did you hide all these weapons?" "Our intelligence said this world was defenseless." Davis smiled grimly. "Your intelligence was looking at what we wanted you to see. We've been preparing for this day for 30 years, Admiral. Every human colony, every trade route, every diplomatic mission was part of a larger plan." Kirksvon felt a chill run down his spine. "How many of your worlds are like this?" "All of them," Davis said simply. "Haven's Rest is actually one of our lighter defended colonies. You should see what we've built around Earth."
The
transmission ended. leaving Karksvon to contemplate the magnitude of the disaster. His fleet had been sent to crush human resistance and demonstrate alien superiority. Instead, they had proven that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. As repair crews worked to restore basic engine function to the surviving ships, Karksvon composed his report to the hegemony. High Command. It would be the most difficult message he had ever written. The human military capabilities have been severely underestimated, he dictated. They possess advanced technology, sophisticated defensive systems, and tactical skills that rival our own. More importantly, they appear to have been preparing for large-scale conflict for decades. He paused, looking at the remains of his once mighty fleet. Recommendation: do not engage human forces without overwhelming superiority. They are not the primitive species we believed them to be. Lieutenant Foster and her squadron escorted the damaged Regelian ships to the edge of the system, making sure they could jump to hyperspace safely. It was a gesture of professional courtesy between soldiers, but it also served a practical purpose. Think they'll get the message? Her wingman asked over the com. Oh, they'll get it, Foster replied, watching the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. And they'll make sure everyone else gets it too. Back on Haven's Rest, Colonel Davis stood in his command center, reviewing the battle reports. 0 human casualties. Minimal damage to their installations. Complete victory against a force that should have been able to destroy them easily. Sir, his aide asked, what now? Davis looked at the star charts showing human space. 43 colonies, all of them now revealed as military strongholds rather than defenseless settlements. The aliens had wanted to see what humanity was capable of. Now they knew. Now we wait, Davis said, and we see if they're smart enough to learn from this lesson. The Battle of Haven's Rest was over, but its effects would ripple across the galaxy for years to come. The aliens had learned that humanity was not the weak, primitive species they had believed. The question now was what they would do with that knowledge. 6 months after the Battle of Haven's Rest, Ambassador Jake Morrison found himself back in the crystal chamber of the Galactic Council station. But this time, everything was different. The aliens no longer spoke to him like he was a child who needed guidance. They spoke to him like an equal, and sometimes with barely hidden fear. President Zorthes of the Council sat across from him, her ethereal form flickering with nervous energy. The other alien representatives filled the chamber. But their attitudes had changed completely. For once they had been arrogant and demanding, now they were careful and respectful. Ambassador Morrison, Zorthes began, we are grateful that Earth has agreed to return to negotiations. Jake leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. We never wanted to fight, he said simply, just wanted to be treated with respect. It took you 6 months and a military defeat to figure that out? Chancellor Vexthera of the Zephyrians shifted uncomfortably. His metallic face showed none of the arrogance he had displayed during the previous talks. The Galactic Council wishes to establish a new framework for relations with humanity. I'm listening, Jake said. Full recognition of human sovereignty over all claimed territories, Zorthes announced. No restrictions on human expansion into unclaimed space. No requirements for alien supervisors or observers on human worlds. Jake nodded. It's a good start. What else? The insect representative from the collective clicked its mandibles nervously. Mutual defense agreements, trade partnerships, cultural exchange programs. All on equal terms. Equal terms, Jake repeated. Like the sound of that. It's amazing how reasonable you can be when you're not trying to make us into your pet species. On Earth, President Ben Carter stood before another joint session of Congress, but this time the mood was celebratory rather than defiant. The human representatives cheered as he announced the terms of the new Galactic Treaty. Ladies and gentlemen, Carter declared, today humanity takes its rightful place among the stars. It's not as subjects, but as equals, as children seeking protection, but as adults demanding respect. The applause was thunderous. For the first time since making contact with alien civilizations, humanity would be treated as a major power rather than a minor annoyance to be managed. The new treaty recognizes human sovereignty over all our current territories, Carter continued. We are free to expand, to explore, to build whatever kind of civilization we choose. Most importantly, we will never again have to ask permission to defend ourselves. In the audience, Dr. Alan Cooper smiled quietly. Project Homestead had succeeded. Beyond his wildest expectations, what had started as a defensive initiative had become the foundation for human independence among the stars. Admiral Kate Sullivan received the news while commanding her fleet near the edge of human space. Her ships no longer hid their capabilities. They patrolled openly their advanced technology, serving as a reminder to any potential enemies of what lay beneath humanity's diplomatic smile. Admiral, her communications officer, reported, "We're receiving congratulations from fleet commands across human space. The treaty has been signed." Kate looked at the star chart showing human territory. 43 worlds officially recognized as sovereign human space, with the right to expand freely into unclaimed regions. It was more than anyone had dared hope. For when the crisis began, signal all ships, Kate ordered. Stand down from combat alert. Return to standard patrol duties. But even as her fleet relaxed, Kate knew they would never again be caught unprepared. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not to be underestimated, and humans had learned never to trust their security to alien goodwill. Back at the peace talks, the negotiations continued with remarkable efficiency. Without the alien superiority, complex getting in the way, actual progress could be made on trade agreements, territorial boundaries, and mutual defense pacts. "There is one more matter," Chancellor Vexthera said carefully. "The other species in the galaxy are concerned about. Human military capabilities? Perhaps some form of transparency agreement could be arranged." Jake almost laughed. "You want us to show you our weapons, so you can figure out how to counter them? We want assurance that humanity will not use its obvious military advantages aggressively," Zorthius explained. "Fair enough," Jake said. "Here's my counterproposal. We'll share general information about our defensive capabilities. In return, every alien species does the same. Full transparency for everyone, not just for humans." The alien representatives exchanged glances. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace through keeping military secrets and maintaining technological advantages over younger species. The idea of true transparency was revolutionary. "That would require significant changes to our security protocols," Vexthera said slowly. "Then change them," Jake replied. "If you want a galaxy based on mutual respect instead of fear, everyone has to play by the same rules." Commander Steve Parker brought his stealth destroyer out of hiding for the first time in years. The Ed's Ghost materialized in the middle of a joint patrol with alien vessels, demonstrating technology that made even the advanced alien sensors useless. Human vessel came a transmission from a Zephyrian cruiser. "We did not detect your approach." "How is this possible?" "Trade secret," Parker replied cheerfully. "Maybe we can discuss it during the technology sharing talks." He knew that. Revealing. Human stealth capabilities would change the balance of power throughout the galaxy. No longer would any species be able to move fleets without human knowledge. It was a game-changing advantage, and humanity intended to use it wisely. On New Texas, Mary Johnson watched as the Sentinel defense platforms openly revealed themselves for the first time. The massive fortress worlds that had been disguised as industrial facilities now stood proud and obvious, their weapons trained on the stars. "It feels good not to have to hide anymore," her chief engineer commented. Mary nodded. 30 years of pretending to be defenseless farmers and miners. Now the galaxy knows what human engineering can really accomplish. The defense platforms were more than just weapons. They were symbols of human determination and ingenuity. Every alien species that looked at them would remember that. Humanity had built these fortresses while being dismissed as primitive and harmless. Dr. Cooper stood in his laboratory, watching news feeds from across the galaxy. Alien military commanders were giving interviews about the need to reassess human capabilities. Alien politicians were calling for new policies toward younger species. Alien scientists were demanding access to human technology. Reported, "We're receiving requests for technology exchanges from 47 different species. Everyone wants to know how we built our stealth ships and defense platforms." Cooper smiled. "Tell them we're open to discussions on equal terms." Of course, the reversal was complete. 6 months ago, The aliens had been trying to force humanity into technological stagnation. Now they were begging for access to human innovations. President Carter's final speech of the crisis was broadcast across the galaxy, translated into hundreds of alien languages. His message was simple but profound. To our new partners among the stars, he said, humanity extends the hand of friendship to all who offer it in return. We have proven that we can defend ourselves when necessary. Now let us prove that we can build something better together. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to accept the new treaty. For the first time in 3,000 years, they had added a major power to their ranks, rather than absorbing a weak species into their protection. Jake Morrison signed the treaty documents with a pen made from Earth steel, using ink created from human-developed chemicals. It was a small gesture, but it represented something important. Humanity would participate in galactic civilization, while remaining fundamentally human. As the signing ceremony concluded, Jake looked around the crystal chamber one last time. The aliens who had once treated him with condescension now watched him with respect and a healthy amount of caution. The children had indeed left the playground, but rather than causing chaos, they had forced the adults to remember what it meant. To treat others as equals, humanity had walked away from peace negotiations as prisoners and returned as partners. The galaxy would never be the same again.